the MK party will celebrate its first anniversary at the Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban in December. The party, which is eyeing the eThekwini Metro in the upcoming local government elections, has recently welcomed ANC and EFF members to its ranks. Let's speak now to its Secretary General, Floyd Shivambu, who joins us from Durban this evening. Mr. Shivambu, good evening to you and thanks for your time. It is a grand celebration that is planned and it's going to take place in 3 provinces, Gauteng, where I am, Mpumalanga, and the ultimate celebrations will be in KZN, where you are. Is this a deliberate strategy to prove to those that have said this party is not a Zulu nationalist party, but rather a party whose interest is that of a national footprint?
Good evening, Polly, and good evening to viewers of Newzroom Afrika. The celebrations to mark the first anniversary of Umkhonto weSizwe will not be taking place only in 3 provinces. It will be taking place in all provinces. The programs that we're announcing today are programs which are going to be addressed by the national officials of Umkhonto weSizwe, which include the program in Gauteng to be addressed by President Zuma on the 30th of November, to launch all the programs that are going to be taking place in the entirety of South Africa, and then a program in Mkondo Municipality that will be addressed by the Deputy President, Dr. Hlophe, and then the other program that will be addressed by the National Chairperson, Nkosinathi Nhleko, here in KwaZulu-Natal. And then, of course, we're going to have the main celebration program on the 15th, on Sunday, the 15th of December, in Moses Mabhida Stadium. That will be a public rally, which will be followed by a gala dinner on the 16th of December, which is the actual birthday of Umkhonto weSizwe in terms of how we got to do it. Umkhonto weSizwe party is not a Zulu national party. It's not a Zulu nationalist party. It's a national liberation movement that seeks to emancipate the entirety of South Africa. That is why it got to contest elections in all the provinces of South Africa and got to win seats in 7 out of South Africa's 9 provinces. And the voter base is a variety of voters. There's never been even a single articulation from any of the leaders of Umkhonto weSizwe. There's not even a sentence or even a word that suggests that Umkhonto weSizwe party is a Zulu nationalist party. It's a progressive national movement, a liberation movement that seeks to fight for total decolonization, that is fighting against all forms and manifestations of oppression in South Africa. So we are going to be celebrating the program in different regions, in different provinces. Our structures, which are taking proper shape now, will be celebrating the first anniversary of Umkhonto weSizwe in their respective areas. And this is a very important celebration because Umkhonto weSizwe is effectively the most successful 1-year-old political program in South Africa since 1994. But since forever, there's never been a political party that got to enjoy the kind of success and progress that Umkhonto weSizwe got to enjoy even before it reaches its first 12 months of existence.
I want to latch on to some of what you've said, specifically that the structures are now starting to take shape. To say that the MK party has experienced teething problems would be an understatement. We have seen members resigning, some being fired. In fact, case in point, the latest person to be dismissed from your party is its leader in Mpumalanga, Mary Padi, who was given her marching orders. This is over allegations that she had hired hitmen to take out her rival within the MK party. Are you able to fill us in on the details of what happened here?
No, look, so the constitution of Umkhonto weSizwe party, as adopted on the 26th of September, empowers the national officials of Umkhonto weSizwe to discontinue membership of any member for one reason or another, particularly when that reason has got political, ideological, or organizational implications. The membership of Miss Mary Paddy from Mpumalanga has been discontinued by the national officials of Umkhonto weSizwe. But the reasons that you're providing is not the reasons. There are internal issues that the organization had thought that are not being handled properly at an organizational level, because there are certain directives which the collective had given to the province of Mpumalanga in the legislature and in the province as a whole, to say that certain things must be done in this particular format. And then when they were not complied with, we then took collective decision to discontinue a membership. The issue that you're talking about of hiring of hitmen, we're not aware of that. It's speculation that we got to see in some of the media reports. But otherwise, we took a decision as Umkhonto weSizwe to discontinue a membership. Look, there had to be some difficulties in the beginning. It happens with all political parties when they are founding. There will be certain elements who do not carry the revolutionary agenda of that movement, who come into the organization for opportunistic and narrow purposes. And what is commendable is that President Zuma was able to identify and root out those elements far much earlier, because if he had just folded his arms and not done anything, the organization was going to be infested with opportunistic and wrong elements who were going to bring the organization perpetually into disrepute. We're going to make the organization not to be a believable a liberation force in the eyes of our people. So the transitional period that got to define some of the aspects of the decisive replacement of some of the people that had to be replaced was a correct one. And that is how we get to be where we are now, where we're taking absolute perfect shape, and we're going to consolidate on that and continue to attract the best of the best and people who have got genuine intentions about pursuing the agenda for total decolonization, which Umkhonto weSizwe is in pursuit of.
Yeah. Can I ask a question around the founding leader of the MK party, former President Jacob Zuma? Do you perhaps see his involvement in the party? I mean, it would make no sense for him to not be involved in the party. But with time, do you foresee him relinquishing that role of president of the party? Or is he likely to be president for life? We have seen that, for example, in the IFP. The reason I'm going here, Mr. Shivambu, is that former President Zuma, some people may view him as an existential threat to the survival of the MK party. Do you get where I'm going with this?
I don't get where you're going with that. But we know, though, that what President Zuma is doing is to constitute the best of the best in society to lead a revolutionary movement with clear ideas, with a clear agenda, and clear perspective as to what we should collectively achieve. He is working on a project and a political program to unite all the liberation forces. And if time says he should leave, and if he decides to leave, whatever time he decides to leave, he will bequeath to the generations to come a united and proper vehicle and weapon for the total struggle against apartheid and colonialism. Because despite the fact that apartheid was partially abolished in 1994, there are still many vivid features that define South Africa in the same way in which apartheid was envisaged. In terms of space, in terms of culture, in terms of the economy, in terms of heritage, in terms of a variety of other things that define our society. That is why Umkhonto weSizwe says we are fighting against all vestiges, all remnants, and all consequences of colonialism and apartheid. We're not just fighting for political emancipation. We're not just fighting for economic emancipation. We're fighting for political emancipation, economic emancipation, social emancipation, cultural emancipation, in other words, for total emancipation. And it will be commendable. It's a contribution which must be celebrated by the entirety of South Africa and the entire African continent and African diaspora, that here is an experienced and genuine leader who is constituting a movement which is going to fight for the total liberation of the people. He doesn't fold his arms and say, I'm not going to do anything because I'm at this age. He says, let us assemble the best of the best, because the argument which President Zuma says is that what really constitutes the difference between those who associate with the Congress movement and those who associate with the Pan-Africanist movement and those who associate with Black consciousness and those who associate with economic freedom in our lifetime.
Yeah.
What primarily is the difference? And if there's no difference, why are we not constituting a single, a common, powerful vehicle that is going to fight for our liberation as a whole, instead of constituting these small fiefdoms and political parties which do not carry any possibility to could win elections, though do not carry any possibility to could attract the numbers that are needed to drive through a transformation and revolutionary agenda that is needed here in South Africa.
Well, you talk about small fiefdoms. That's a very interesting description of the opposition parties, or should we say fellow opposition parties that exist today. I want to pick up on that when we return. You're watching News at Prime, and if you're just joining us, we are wrapping up a conversation with the Secretary General of the newly formed MK Party, which is going to be celebrating its first year anniversary on the 15th of December, but effectively it was launched on the 16th of December last year. Its Secretary General is Floyd Shivambu. Mr. Shivambu, I want to pick up on that line that you said, that small fiefdoms are not going to help amass the kind of electoral support I want to think that you are looking for. And am I wrong to assume that by that you are perhaps taking us to a conversation that we would have listened to in the past couple of weeks, where the leader of the EFF suggested that there was a proposal that said, let's swallow the EFF into the MK Party and form a much larger organization that would have the kind of strength that could potentially dislodge the ANC from power. Are those still the plans? Would that still be the way to amass this following that you are looking for?
Look, one, I don't know what you are referring to when you said that leader of the EFF spoke about that, but if he did, I don't think it could have been a correct reflection of what got to transpire, because the discussions about the formation of Umkhonto we Sizwe, at least from some of us, happened amongst other periods in October 2023, where President Zuma had called different political parties to explain the idea of unification of all the progressive forces and all Black political parties that are fighting for total decolonization. And that meeting, which I attended myself on behalf that time of the economic freedom fighters, resolved that let us go and contest elections as separate political parties, and we will have discussions later on as to how do we consolidate a common agenda. There is now, of course, a progressive caucus that is constituted in Parliament to fight on common issues and deal with on a variety of parliamentary issues that have to be dealt with. There's not yet been a common discussion at the political level as to how do we get to unify the political movements to then have a common agenda. That discussion might happen and will happen, and it might as well be that the resolution could be, let's continue to exist as separate political parties, or it might be that let us constitute one broad front or electoral platform which is going to contest elections as a formidable force. But what we know as Umkhonto we Sizwe is that thus far, there's been multiple political parties that have collapsed into Umkhonto we Sizwe party. I can count more than 10 political parties which are represented at local level in different municipalities which have collapsed into Umkhonto we Sizwe. And we continue to engage with different political parties. We can actually even give a report openly, because it's not a secret that There's even many other political parties in different provinces which are saying that we have been trying to fight for our rights. We think that our ideas and ideals are aligned to Umkhonto we Sizwe. We intend to come and join this progressive movement. So that those discussions are ongoing, and there will never be a time where such a unification will be portrayed as swallowing or dissolution of any other political party. It is to say that there is now a higher and much more possible, practical, and viable platform to fight for our total liberation. Why would you want to continue to go to war with a 9mm pistol when we're saying that here is an AK-47 to fight much more credibly for your freedom? Why would you want to fight in corners and always hiding because you do not have the necessary armaments? We're saying that let us now pick up the real arms and fight against the establishment, because if we fight divided, if we fight in small corners, we're never going to win this battle. The reason colonialism was able to thrive and be sustained over centuries is because the white colonial and apartheid racist capitalist system managed to divide black people into small groupings of people, into small tribes and even Bantustans in some stage, so that they do not see a common agenda.
Yeah.
And what we are doing in Umkhonto we Sizwe now is to say, let us unite all of us, that unity is at the center of the struggle that we have to fight as the oppressed. Unless we're united, we're not going to win this battle. The white system is going to continue to dominate like it is dominating currently in South Africa. We need to fight for total liberation in unity, and that is what we're fighting for. It is not about denigrating or trying to dissolve any political party. It's to have a genuine conversation as to how do we consolidate all our forces instead of fighting in small corners.
Finally, Mr. Shivambu, how do you do that? How do you convince not only people that will possibly become members of your party, but also the general public of South Africa? How do you convince them to come to the MK party as that vehicle of liberation when the party at its helm is a man who was not so long ago, we were told as a country that he is responsible for the phenomenon of state capture, something that the country frowns upon. And then you add to that, his deputy was recently stripped of his judicial rank, if you put it in that way, if you can put it that way. He's no longer, he can't be referred to as a former judge anymore. And that's because of his personal behavior. You add to that, there are other people that were accused of corruption, whether be it at Eskom or in other areas. How do you do that credibly with such a grouping of people?
Now, look, let's deal with all of those issues much more emphatically and decisively. The biggest scam in South Africa's politics and political history was this nonsense or rubbish called state capture narrative, which was driven for a very long time. Some of us got to realize even before Umkhonto we Sizwe party was formed that we're driven into a wrong agenda to pursue President Zuma because he did not want to account to the white capitalist establishment. There's never been an instance, not even once, where the white capitalist establishment got to direct and micromanage President Zuma. He associated with progressive forces domestically and at a global level because he understood the agenda that he's fighting for. There's no such a thing that got to happen. That is why, even from a mechanical point of view, the people that you say that they are facing corruption allegations and all of those things are not facing such. Like they tried to charge, for instance, Commander Brian Molefe with corruption, but those charges have been dropped. There's no any meaningful case against our Member of Parliament, Commander Siyabonga Gama. There's no case against Lucky Montana. There's no cases against anyone because all of that state capture nonsense was just a fiction that was meant to bastardize and to scare off those who are in pursuit of radical economic transformation. And that is the agenda that we openly and proudly associate with. And we call on the people of South Africa to realize that we were misled for a very long time with so many lies. There were so many people who were even saying that President Zuma stole billions of rands. He's building mansions in Dubai, he's doing all of those things. Not even one person today can come with a proof that President Zuma took a single cent from the state for his own personal benefit out of the so-called nonsense of state capture. That has never been alleged, has never been proved. There is no one who can even come next to saying that there was manipulation in a wrong way of the processes of the state. As a head of state and president, President Zuma had an obligation every time, like he does even to this day. When people go to him and say that we've got a business proposition, we've got an idea that must be looked into by the organization or by the state, he refers those people to the relevant people to say that please interact with these people so that they can show you the process as to how such can be implemented if it is a sensible view. So the whole narrative of state capture was a capitalist capture narrative that was fighting against the fact that President Zuma was leading a fundamental transformation agenda that sought to transform Eskom from every aspect of it, of coal purchases and who gets to benefit out of the businesses that happen around Eskom, of transforming Transnet, of refusing the decommodification and privatization of state-owned assets. And you can see that once President Zuma is now displaced from political power, the immediate agenda then comes that agenda of trying to destabilize Eskom so that they can plug in independent power producers. They try to then also sell off the strategic state assets, which we're told are being captured under President Zuma. There's never been a time where President Zuma tried to privatize any of the state assets. But those who are saying state capture are the ones who are capturing these state assets for private benefit. So that narrative, we're not fools, we're not stupid. We can't be held at ransom with a narrative which was concocted by the capitalist agenda to try to scare off people on radical economic transformation and an agenda that has to be pursued. So Mkhonto weSizwe is not ashamed of any of its leaders. We embrace all of our leaders. We embrace Judge Hlophe, who was unlawfully removed by the Democratic Alliance and the ANC for political reasons. The reason why they displaced him because they were fearful that he will rule against them on so many things, that he stands firmly against the racist culture which was beginning to encroach the judiciary in the Western Cape High Court and other spheres of society.
All right.
So Mkhonto weSizwe is not ashamed of any of our leaders. They are solid, capable leaders with proven track record. They are not involved in any form of wrongdoing, and we will defend them all the time because there is nothing wrong that they've done, and there is no one who can, in rational mind, claim that they've done anything wrong. These are our leaders who are leading us towards unification of all the progressive forces and towards a political agenda that is going to unite all the progressive forces for total decolonization, for total political, economic, social, cultural and heritage, knowledge, freedom, and emancipation.
All right.
That is the agenda which we're celebrating.
For the sake of correctness, though, I have to point out that the independent power producer program at Eskom did start under the tenure of former President Jacob Zuma, and it would have been introduced under his minister then, Jeff Radebe. At least do we agree on that?
No, I think you have got a total misreading of what happened. The only way independent power producers were going to thrive within the Eskom framework was if Eskom was unable to optimally generate the electricity that is needed in South Africa. And under President Zuma and under President Zuma and under the CEO of Brian Molefe, there was no shortage of electricity in South Africa. So independent power producers were not going to be applicable at all because Eskom would be optimally producing the necessary and needed energy here in South Africa. So that is a misreading. President Zuma understood the power or the dynamics of energy politics very well, and he knew that the global West has been trying to force feed a so-called just transition agenda of green energy, which they are not implementing themselves into South Africa, bribing South African officials for that. And he resisted that, and he knew that to resist that is to have a stable ESCOM, which was stable throughout his tenure. Even when they tried to sabotage it, he brought it back to stability to provide electricity to all the people of South Africa. But those ones who came after him, they tried to hijack it for wrong purposes. And we will, when we take power, correct all these anomalies and maladies that are happening in South Africa.
Floyd Shivambu, the Secretary General of the MK Party, thank you very much for your time.